DJI news time. It's been a while since we've had some DJI news, and today we got some pretty interesting DJI news. I think we got new goggles announced finally. I say finally because we talked about the light SKU, the DJI Goggles 2 light SKU a while back, and it turns out the light SKU's name is Integra, DJI Goggles Integra. So, we got some leaks early on.
Hang on, just to be clear, I didn't know that. This is officially the culmination of the SE light goggle leak that came earlier.
It matches basically. Yeah, it seems to match up.
Okay.
Like they got rid of the touch split thing and added the little joystick, and it's similar to the leak we've heard about the light. So
now when
it would be this.
I don't have to worry about when that's going to come. Got it. Okay, please continue.
It's also cheaper. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So this is $500 for this goggle, which is a $150 price drop. DJI Goggles 2 SE. So you've got the 2 Goggles Integra. You've got the Goggles 2 page up.
Oh, whoops.
But there's also, that
Integra.
Integra.
Now, which page am I going to?
The second link. There you go.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so this is the Integra.
That's the Goggles.
No, this is the Integra.
That's the Integra.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. So a couple different things here they've done. Touch panel is now physical buttons. So there used to be a touch panel on the side of the goggle. There used to be LED lights on the side of the goggle, and those are just 4 lights now for battery power. They don't have the little display that used to be on the side of the goggles. The diopter adjustment's gone. Wireless streaming's gone. Speaker is gone, and audio port's gone. However, what we have instead is a sliding adjustment similar to the V2s on the bottom. And we have basically a built-in battery with cushion, similar to like a VR system.
This damn thing back here.
That's the thing on the back, yeah.
Okay.
And that's they claim that to be a 2-hour battery life. You can also run indefinitely by plugging in a USB power bank, and it will run while it's charging. So at least you have that option to, similar to the Goggles 2, you plug in USB, you run it in a very similar way.
Okay. Fair.
Screen's the same.
Yeah.
Refresh rate's the same. Features appear to be the same. Everything else seems to be the same, but we're basically getting a similar goggle with a few cut features, and this extra addition of a built-in battery for $150 less.
So a couple things. My initial thoughts about this. I'm glad the touchpad is gone. I hate the touchpad. It's so frustrating to me. I'm like constantly swipe, and then it turns out like I'm slightly swiping diagonally instead of down, and give me a joystick every freaking time. The missing diopters, the focus adjustment, obviously is going to be a big deal to me because I use that. It does come with a set of corrective lenses, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's my understanding is that, it ships with a set of corrective lenses. So there'll be something hopefully close to your prescription. It's not quite as good as the, moving a focus knob, but at least is an option. So
Joseph Dahari and Travis in the Discord. Go ahead.
Yes. There's also a smaller FOV. So it's 44 FOV instead of 51, these goggles.
That's not the end of the world for a 16:9 display. 44 is a little small, but like a 45-degree field of view on a 4:3 display to me is a pretty good place to be. And on a 16:9 display, then it's going to kind of be letterbox down and be a little small, but I don't think anybody's going to find that to be a deal breaker. And you can always pay $150 more for the other goggles.
Yeah, presumably they had to build in different optics, maybe similar to V2 or something else, and that changed the FOV based on how the optics laid on the goggles.
Oh, they changed optics probably to save money because the
focus adjustment's gone.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's one more thing in these goggles that's kind of a big deal, and that is they're being reported to have GPS on board. And the reason for that is because when you use them with the Avata or any standard remote ID drone, so not a self-built drone, when you use them with a standard remote ID drone like the Avata, then they have to report the pilot's location. And the way the Avata currently handles that with the Goggles 2 is that you plug your phone into the goggles and it uses your phone and the DJI Fly app to get your location, which is a giant pain in the ass. I was hanging out with Ken Herron this weekend. He had the Avata with him. Every time he pulled the damn thing out, he had to get his phone out and plug in the goggles, and it was a nightmare. I mean, it's like not a nightmare, but So it's nice that they have GPS in them, I suppose. A lot of people running the O3 air unit are going to wonder about the implications of this for them, and whether it's going to, like, I don't know, force you to remote ID.
Yeah, there's no reason we would ever expect that to be the case. And that's because you don't need the location of the pilot if you're using a module-based remote ID.
Correct.
So O3 isn't built into anything other than the Avata, which already has remote ID. So if the O3 somehow got the ability to interface with a GPS, so it doesn't have a GPS, so it would need to interface
Okay, so that's
with
the
a
first
GPS.
thing. Well, let's make that really clear. Today, the O3 cannot do remote ID because it doesn't have a GPS built in. So it would need an external GPS device, which of course it could theoretically do, but it doesn't.
Let's say DJI, DJI has been working with Betaflight. We'll talk about that in the next bit of the story here. So it is possible, who knows, maybe they could work over MSP and do communication with GPS. And,
100% could do.
Right. However, the other concern here, right, is that even if that's the case, number one, it'll certainly be optional. But number two, if you do module-based remote ID, you do not need the location of the pilot at all times. So you do not require a GPS. So this doesn't add anything or change any of the requirements that would be for a module-based remote ID anyway.
Yeah. So if you believe that DJI is evil and will do everything they can to screw you, then you could see the fact that the goggles now have GPS in them as a bad move. But they already are solving this problem by forcing Avata users to plug in a phone. So, I mean, you could argue that if DJI wanted to screw you in this way, they could do that by forcing you to plug in your phone to use the O3. There is no regulatory reason why they would have to do that, and they haven't done it.
Yeah, essentially, this doesn't really move that goalpost at all for them.
I don't think it does.
Move where they would have to be at. Yeah. It's just a convenience for Avata users, and in the future, possibly any other drones that will bind to this goggle. So.
Now, I just thought, I literally, as we were talking about this, thought of one downside of the new system. So we were inside a building. Ken pulls out his Avata. He's going to fly the Avata inside the building, pulls out his phone, plugs his phone in. You probably know, most people probably know, that phones have many different ways of getting your location. It's not just GPS, but it's also triangulation based on cell data, Wi-Fi networks. There are several different ways that phones get your location, and that's how you can get. Anyway, how do you get location data indoors when you're not getting GPS signals? So when you plug in the phone, the Avata knows your location and it'll take off. But I wonder how the goggles will handle that. If you're indoors and you can't get a GPS lock, what will it? I don't know. I mean, I don't have an answer, but. Will the goggles say, I'm going to give them your last known location? I don't think that's what the FAA would want.
Well, I can tell you that, that technically the way the ASTM is written, you do not need to provide a GPS location if you're indoors. So it's possible that if they wrote in their code, it would totally be legal for them to write in their code to the rule that if you cannot acquire a satellite signal, you can still arm the drone. It's just an attempt to get satellite signal.
But would that not just motivate people to defeat the GPS receiver?
That's not anybody's responsibility. That's not anybody's job. They didn't write the rule.
Yeah, okay. It's an interesting question. I don't have an answer. Folks in the chat, I actually missed who it was, are talking about the antennas and saying the antennas are non-removable. Is that... I mean, they look like the same antennas as on the goggles, too. So are they removable? Do we know?
I would assume they are removable. I don't know why people would say they aren't. But, I mean, they look identical.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's the Goggles Integra. Now we've also got the Goggles 2 Awaken.
Well, this is something I was trying to show between the two. People were talking about this new feature called Sync Smooth.
Oh, I see. These are the same goggles too.
I was attempting to show that if you scroll down a ways, you'll find that there's a Sync Smooth is called out specifically, and this is the old Goggles 2. And if you go back through, it's on the left there, scroll just a little bit back up. Right there, I believe.
Yeah.
On the left of the goggles.
Optimizes video smoothness and resolution. What the hell does that mean? Crisp,
if you
smooth
scroll
video
down,
playback.
Here, scroll down a little more. Yep. There, stop.
Can I just search for Sync Smooth?
Oh, yeah, probably just do that. Control F sync. There you
Yeah.
go. So yeah, they're calling it basically some way for it to create smoother video and to make it easier on the eyes with less visual strain and fatigue. So something I'm wondering, people are calling this out now because it showed up on the Goggles 2 Integra site and people saw it, but it was also part of the Goggles 2 release back in November, and it was part of basically when they added the O3 area in it in the Goggles 2. So I am curious to know, if this is something they've been doing and we didn't realize, where they're basically doing some sort of, they call it frame interpolation and sync smooth. So I wonder if they're doing some kind of fudging, right? We know the Goggles 2 have higher latency. So maybe somewhere in this chain, they're doing something to smooth the frames that are coming into the goggles. And one of the reasons we see better, situational things is not just H.265, but maybe some new process they're using to smooth the frame. So,
but we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't have any idea what's actually happening there, but we did want to let people know that was already a thing. We don't necessarily know specifically what it is.
People are seeing Sync Smooth in the release notes and going, excuse me, what's this new thing? And you're telling us that it's not a new thing.
Correct. It's an old thing.